Welcome back to another Road Race Report podcast. This time we are headed into the shop. The shop will be a place where we can bring guests of all varieties from the space of motorcycle racing, both on-road and off-road, and maybe some media folks along the way. This will be a place where we hang out, talk shop, and get the real inside scoop and people's life stories. Yeah, just looking to get people in here and share their stories and tell their tales, and hopefully get some legends on here pretty soon and try to dig some dirt up from the past and see what we can't get people to say that they might not have been able to say in the moment from races long gone. So for this episode, Mike Kennedy joins us. He is the incoming and new, I think it's been just a few months now, CEO of Indian Motorcycle. We get into a bit of his background, both work and personal, and then dive into all things King of the Baggers. We obviously had the rule change that's happened after round two. So a little hot button topic that we'll jump in on. This was a really fun podcast. The IMC team reached out to share their story, which is exactly what this platform is being built to do, to be a place where riders, teams, and brands can share their stories. And IMC wanted to do just that. So trust that if we don't have Harley on the podcast ahead of Road America, which it's pretty tight timeline, we're just a day after Barber and about 10 days out from turning up at Road America. If we don't get them on, we'll have plenty of questions immediately when we show up at Road America on Thursday. So yeah, we'll get to the bottom of it and get everyone's take and riders, team, etc. So yeah, my email is open for anyone at this point. There'll be plenty more podcasts like this. So happy to welcome people into the shop and talk about your story and get to know people a little better around the paddock. And yeah, looking forward to it. Let's cover off some business real quick and we'll get to it. This episode is brought to you by San Soda's Fresh Italian. If you know, you know. If you don't, San Soda's is all about doing things the right way. Fresh ingredients, authentic recipes, and no shortcuts. Whether it's pizza, pasta, salads, subs, catering for your next event, real Italian food made with intention. If you're in the area from Mid-Ohio or racing flat track at Harpster for with the Triangle Motorcycle Club, make sure to check out San Soda's Fresh Italian and support the people who support this show. For teams and riders heading to Mid-Ohio, we've got catering options available and would love to bring fresh Italian food to keep the crew fueled and going at the racetrack. This episode is also brought to you by Yamaha Champions Riding School and Champ U. Whether you're trying to shave seconds off your lap time, become a smoother street rider, or just understand why the best riders do what they do, Champ U gives you direct access to the same principles taught to professionals and everyday riders alike. From vision and brake release to throttle timing, bike placement, it's one of the best tools out there. It changed my life in terms of riding motorcycles after about 20 years of doing so. So yeah, anyone looking to build real confidence and real understanding on a motorcycle, Champ U and Yamaha Champions Riding School is where it's at. You can learn more at ridelikeachampion.com or champu.org. And last bit of business here. If you'd like to support the show and what we do at Road Race Report, we've got merch live on the site. Your support funds the trips to the races and helps us create content like this. The quicker we can grow, the quicker we can bring some people on to help do more. We've got plenty of ideas and looking to bring some more advertisers in, both here on the shop and our podcast network, but also plenty of other opportunities to create content and things like that. So buy some merch on the site. The shirts are what you see me wearing basically on this podcast. Got one on right now. The hoodies are great. And we'll have more coming soon. Hats, water bottles, things like that. So stay tuned. And without further ado, it's CEO of Indian Motorcycle, Mike Kennedy, joining us here in the shop. Mike Kennedy, welcome to the shop. I think you may be one of our first guests. I have one more of these recorded. We'll see which one gets out first, but welcome to the shop. For those that probably don't know yet, the shop will be our podcast space where we bring in anyone from the industry, really, and it could be outside the industry. I love the shop environment. sitting around staring at motorcycles and cars and cracking a beer, and the best stories and conversations are had around the shop. So
I
we're
agree with
sticking with
that.
that theme, and welcome on.
Yeah, you bet. Happy to be here. Am I your first non-racer participant? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
you are
figured.
definitely. You actually you're gonna hold the title for first non-racer on the social channels, and now first non-racer on the podcast. So
Yeah,
stoked to have you. We spent a little bit of time together doing some filming at the beginning of the year there at Daytona. So yeah, good to have you in. It's been great to see the start you guys have had to the year.
it's been incredible. Actually, it feels in some regards Daytona feels like it was last week. In other
Yep.
regards, it feels like it was a year ago, which
Yeah.
I'm sure you can relate to
Yep.
standing up your own new company. It's there's a lot to do in every facet,
Yep.
and we're having a ton of good success momentum. So we're feeling really good about it. But
Yep.
as maybe a teaser on the Moto America rules change, right?
Yep.
Life is never stagnant, especially in business, and there's always things to wake up to and adapt and overcome. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's we'll get into that here in a little bit. I'm excited to have a chat and get your thoughts on it.
for
So,
sure.
um, this podcast basically, I really like try to build a linear story, right? So we'll start early. Where did you grow up, and what was growing up like for Mike Kennedy?
Yeah, I like to say I'm a kid from Milwaukee. I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee, little community called Oak Creek, Wisconsin. And yeah, both parents worked. My dad owned his own business. He got me riding motorcycles when I was the age of 12. It's a Yamaha street bike that we sort of converted to like a semi off road bike, removing fenders and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And that's funny. My dad's still around. My parents are both around. I'm very blessed. They're in the late 80s,
Yep.
and they're following me around on social media and paying attention
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thankful to my dad for getting me ride motorcycles when I was an early age. I never had this grand plan that I would spend 35 years in the motorcycle business. That wasn't my vision, but
Yep.
I'm sure glad that it worked out the way it is, and super stoked to be tapped as the CEO of Indian Motorcycle Company. I mean, it's like a dream come true in terms of what I've been working for all these years to
Yep.
then get handed the reins of America's first motorcycle company. So it's
Yeah,
fun.
that's incredible. I
Yeah.
knew you were an avid rider. You ride a lot. So yeah, I knew it had to be early because you don't just get bit by the bug and have it the way you do without being in it early.
No,
So
well, I think you're right about that, and I think, but then I started working at Harley right out of college, so that was 1989,
yep.
and I remember my boss threw me keys to a police demo bike after about 2 or 3 weeks in the job and said, "Hey, you want to put some miles on it this weekend?" And of course, it just when you're in the business, then you get chances to ride
Yep.
by more, and you can also justify to your spouse that hey, we have to have a bike in the garage because it's my occupation.
Yeah.
No, she's great. She loves riding. We actually spent Saturday, I had the weekend off, sort of off, and so we went and visited a couple of dealers here close to my house and put on 125 miles to celebrate 125 years of Indian Motorcycle Company.
That's so rad. Yeah. What about the racing side of things? You're clearly at the races. You seem to love the racing side of the business. What was your first experience with racing, and what kind of draws you to that side of the biz?
That's a great story there. It involves, as you might guess, Terry Vance in some way. But I got promoted into director of marketing for Harley Davidson's Parts and Accessories group, and I'd never forget this. I interviewed for the job, got the job, and at the end, he said, "Hey, by the way, you're also responsible for racing." And at the time, Harley's racing program was in a shambles. I mean, they were trying to get into drag racing. They didn't know what they were doing with road racing. It was just a mess. And so after going to my first drag race event, which was the U.S. Nationals down in Indy, which is like
Yep.
the biggest one on the planet,
Yep.
I had my hands full. And so I asked my mentor in this space, I said, "Hey, who's like, you know, the MJ of motorcycle racing?"
Yep.
And he's like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I need help here. Like, how do we figure out something to do something big?" And they're like, "Well, that'd be Vance and Hines, but don't bother calling them because, they're so in bed with Suzuki. They don't even take your call."
Yeah.
And one thing you learn about me is tell me not to do something is like a sure way to get me to do it. And so I picked up the phone and called Terry and kind of laid out a plan, and I flew out to visit him, and then that agreement was in place for 25 years. So well past my exiting my role, and then eventually the company.
Yep.
I think that relationship lasted. I think it was like 4 CMOs and 5 CEOs, or vice versa. I always get that mixed up,
Yeah.
but it stood the test of time. Right, 25-year relationship is incredible. So
Yep.
so that was a really difficult phone call I made back in, I think that was like 97 or 8 or 9 or something like that.
Yep.
The phone call I made to him just recently, more recently, which I'm sure we'll talk about, was
Yeah.
a lot easier phone call to make.
Yeah, I can imagine so. I can imagine so. That's interesting. I didn't know that your history. I knew you had worked at Vance and Hines, but didn't know your history went back that deep with them. That's
Yeah,
pretty incredible.
it's crazy actually the way it's worked out.
Yep.
I'm glad I made that phone call back to him, and in the late '90s, and him and his team did great work for Harley, and for the brand, and for racing. And
Yep.
you and I have talked about that, right? I mean, Terry's got an incredible history when you really dissect it in
Yep.
two-wheel motorcycle racing,
No doubt.
almost on all forms:
Yep.
dirt, straight, road.
Yep.
Some incredible riders, incredible
Yeah.
teams, factory relationships, etc.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
look at what they're doing right now. You have
yeah,
the flat track series that they're deeply involved in, and running up front at this point. You've got what
yep,
you guys are doing with the bagger stuff, running up front there, and you've got drag racing, which they've really kind of never left the front of. So
yeah.
uh, it's just impressive. I cannot wait to sit him down, and I'm going to do some serious homework when it comes time to do a podcast with Terry Vance, because there are so many cool little nooks and crannies that you could dive
Yeah.
into, and different people that he's worked with, that it's just a fascinating resume, and one that's like, a novel in and of itself. So
You're right, and that's there's a lot I like about Terry, and the relationship that he and I have built. But
yep.
when you recognize the depth of
Mhm.
his experiences, and so
Yep.
there's nothing that he hasn't been involved with. There's nothing he hasn't seen and dealt with.
Yep.
And for me, that's the kind of partner that I needed in this program.
Absolutely.
Because we want to shake things up, and the team just is doing great work. Obviously,
Yeah.
they showed up at Daytona and really nailed it.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're excited,
Yep.
and we're just getting started. So it's gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
for sure.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
uh let's dive in on your career a little bit. Just kind of walk us through the cliff notes of where you kind of been, and what you've seen, and how you got to this opportunity here.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a blessed individual. I've been working in the motorcycle business since 1989. I think that in my time at Harley,
Yep.
I probably worked for some of the best talent in the motorcycle business that the motorcycle business has seen probably in the last 50 years.
Wow.
Names like Jerry Wilkie, John Flickinger, got to know Rich Tierlink, who was the CEO of the company for a while. Worked closely with Keith Wandell, who was CEO for about 5 years. Ron Hutchinson was my boss for a period of 6 or 7 years. And he ran the parts and accessories group, got me into racing. Had he not had the faith to throw the racing program at me, there's
Yep.
a good chance I'm not sitting here today, right? There's a really good chance I never meet Terry Vance.
Yep.
So I feel like I've been just totally blessed. I grew up on the sales, marketing, little bit of product planning side of things, and did a stint over in Europe for a while. So that was a great experience. I mentor young people all the time and tell them if they have a chance to move overseas as an American living overseas, I think is a really great, awareness building exercise to
Yeah.
help you really understand who we are as Americans. And that's changed today. So I'm not trying to pretend that I know what that's like today, but back when I did it in the early 2000s, it was a really good experience. Tough on the family,
Yeah.
but it was a good experience.
Yeah. It's
Um,
funny. It's funny that that specifically is one of those things that, until you've kind of worked, like just the racing work that I've been attached to outside of the US, it opens your perspective to what else is kind of happening out in the world, because it's so vastly different. So
yeah, yeah.
it's really cool.
And of course, throughout that whole time, right? Racing was always, I wasn't always involved in racing. There was a period of time that I was heavily involved in racing, and
Yeah.
had a chance to kind of chart a new course for that brand in racing with
Yep.
a new partner.
Yep.
But it was always in the background, right? There was always something going on there. It was always in the
Yeah.
background, performance products, all that good stuff. Oops,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
You're good. No worries.
And then I actually ended up leaving Harley. My last job at Harley was vice president, managing director of the Americas, which was
Okay.
it's a big group. It's about a $4 billion business at over 800 dealers, I think, in that region. And it was just a fantastic opportunity. I ended up leaving the company, not on my own wishes, by the way. I sort of
Okay.
got thrown out, if you will. Part of the reason why that happened is I was more pro dealer
Mhm.
than the culture wanted to accept,
Interesting.
and which is kind of ironic because that pro dealer attitude. I think there were two reasons why I was very pro dealer. One was my dad owned his own business, and that taught me a lot about what it takes to own your own business: risk, liability, hard work, 24/7 on the clock, all that good stuff. So
Yep.
I had appreciation for that. But then guys like Jerry Wilkie and John Flickinger and other leaders of mine at Harley taught me how valuable the dealer network was to the business, the brand, and frankly, us solving problems. So,
Yep.
anyways, I ended up leaving the company
Yeah.
in like late 2018, early 2019, and was fortunate enough to get the CEO role at Vance and Hines, which moved me to California
Yep.
and kind of got me back into racing
Yep.
and doing flat track, obviously drag racing, all that good stuff. And then Harley called us and said, "Hey, we're going to do this exhibition event for King of the Baggers." I forget what year that was. Was that 2020 or 21?
I think so. Something like that. It's about 5 years.
Yeah. And so we put together the first bagger, and it was basically an electric glide where we sawed off the foot pegs and put a big bore kit on it and a pipe, and away we went. I mean, it was crazy, really. When you look at the bikes today
How many
that we're
times?
running,
How many times do you think that bike that you guys built first would get lapped in an 8-lap
oh,
race?
oh my gosh. I'll never forget Hayden. Hayden was our first rider, which is one of the reasons why I just really, really love having him part of the program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Besides the fact he's just a great human being, but
Of course.
I'll never forget. You went out Laguna, right? Went around the track and said the foot pegs. I'm dragging foot pegs. So they got a hacksaw and they cut the foot pegs back. You go out and I'm still hitting the foot pegs. Cut them back. I mean, there was like the foot peg was like
No.
that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got waxed by Indian, by the way, and later, anyways, Harley kicked us out and took it in house,
Yep.
and so I was at Vance Hines for about 6 years. Great experience, because it was kind of my first private equity experience,
Yep.
and then it was also a chance to work. Terry didn't own the company at the time; he'd already sold the company,
Yep.
but I brought him in as an advisor because the guy is so brilliant in the space.
Of course.
And he taught me a lot about working with entrepreneurs. It's not as easy as some would think because they operate at a different level. I mean,
Yep.
when you can hang in a kind of business environment with a guy like Terry Vance,
Hmm.
it's not easy
Yeah.
because he's moving at a much faster pace than what you're used to moving. He sees things around the corner that
Yeah.
typically you don't see. And there's a reason why he's really successful, right? And that's it's a great learning experience.
Yep.
There's a lot of fun with that.
Yep.
At the same time, it's frustrating, right? Because he's operating at this level. I'm just trying to keep up,
Yeah.
and guys like that don't have a lot of patience for bringing people along. It's like he
Yeah.
turns around and says, "Hey, keep up, or you're gone," kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Is his mentality? Kind of, he's a hard charging
Yeah.
entrepreneur, which is
Get with
which
it
is
or
why we
get
love him.
lost. Yeah.
Yeah, get with or get lost. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to brush on one thing because it's something that I noticed in the filming that we did. You spend a lot of time in prioritizing dealers still to this day, right? You're constantly where just see things pop up where you're like, oh man, Mike's at another dealer, or you go to an event and you're not just going to the event, you're going to go see the dealers that are around. Number one, how many dealers Indian wise do you think in the whatever 6 months or 8 months it's been? How many dealers you think you've been to, and what's been the experience with the Indian dealer network?
Yeah. So the reason why first off, our dealers are critical to our business, right? We can we will only go as far in this business as our dealer network can take us.
Yep.
They take care of the ride. They deliver the bike to the rider. They take care if there's an issue.
Hmm.
Like, they're, you don't call me on Saturday if you have an engine problem. You call your dealer,
Yep.
and they take care of you. So that's the one reason. The other thing is I learn a tremendous amount when I talk to our dealers
Yep.
because they're in it every day. They're in front of our riders. They're tackling local issues, trying to bring prospects into the business. And I learn a ton from talking to our dealers. So that's why I do it. It kind of looks like I'm on a boondoggle having fun, and I do have fun.
Yep.
But when I'm sitting with Ricky Kelly up in the Panhandle of Florida,
Yep.
or anybody else, and we close the door, we talk shop, I learn a ton. And I encourage my team today that we need to bring an attitude with our dealers that when our program or our products or our promotions aren't working, and our dealers are telling us that, we need to do more than just listen. We need to listen and adapt so that we can get better. So I think my VP of sales the other day introduced me at a meeting, and he said that I was at over 35 dealers already so far. I'm not keeping count, but I mean, I'd love to get to every one of them. That's probably not feasible, but every time I interact with a dealer, I'm learning. So I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we'll fast forward then. This IMC opportunity comes to be. Give us the Cliff Notes version of what that looked like on your end.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was actually Friday night, Memorial Day weekend, a year ago.
Wow.
Spencer Tolwell, who is he's the partner heading up the M&A group at Carrollwood, called me out of the blue on Friday night. It was 5:00 my time, and I saw the voicemail come in. I was about to kind of shut down for the day. And picked up the phone, called him back, and he said, "Hey, he had me sign an NDA so he could share some information with me." And as soon as he did that, he kind of jumped in and said, "Hey, we've been doing some research. We're looking at Indian as an acquisition. We love the brand. We think it's an incredible opportunity. We are not motorcycle people. We don't know the motorcycle business. We've done some research. We talked to some bankers. Your name keeps coming up as maybe a potential good fit to help us advise us on the deal, and then maybe run it if we're lucky enough to get it." And so I said, "Hey, gosh, I mean, it's at that point, knowing what I knew, it's a great brand. They've done incredible things. Literally chasing me when I was running the Americas for Harley. They were a thorn in my side, and I thought, man, if you get the right recipe going with that brand and that product line, that could be an exciting opportunity." So I was all in from the beginning. They called me, and we went through the whole due diligence process, bankers and lawyers and consultants and all that stuff, which not my favorite place to be, but you kind of got to go through it. And then we closed, February 2nd, and we've been, no pun intended, off to the races ever since. It's been just wide open throttle ever since then.
Absolutely. I'm sure it has to just be a really different experience for you. Obviously, you have the right experience to navigate it, but what's it like to come into a company that's in flux, that's changed hands, where you kind of have to go in and set the tone and navigate that? What's that been like for you?
Yeah, it's a daunting task. Fortunately or unfortunately, I got tagged as a turnaround guy when I went to Vance Hines. Vance Hines was in a really tough spot when I got there, and I made some moves to change a bunch of different things there. Got extremely fortunate with some timing of some things and some broader context issues, some decisions we made that we got lucky in the marketplace and turned the company around. And so from that point forward, I kind of got tagged as a turnaround guy. Which I do enjoy it. I mean, turning a company around it's daunting on some aspects. Look, let's be honest. The Indian Motorcycle division of Polaris, Polaris did an incredible job of investing in product, in brand, in technology, in plants, in engineering. Their priority was not to run a financially sustainable business. It just wasn't their priority. Their priority was thinking, 20 years down the road. And
Yep.
if we do these things right, eventually we'll make money. So Enter today, the Carolwood team is definitely committed to the long-term viability of this company and the brand,
Yep.
but there's different urgency in terms of turning the company around and transforming it. So
Yep.
we've laid out an entire transformation plan. We're going to consolidate plants and change a bunch of things.
Yep.
And we're all swimming through the change curve inside the company. I mean, there's a lot of change going on, and as I like to say, human beings don't like change, and so we're doing all we can in terms of communicating, holding people's hands, making sure they understand our intentions.
Yep.
And we laid out really a 4-point plan, Anthony, which was all around product, all around the brand, all around our dealers, and all around U.S. manufacturing, and that's what we're going to stay true to in the medium term.
Yeah.
We've declared the products we're going to compete in, which is cruiser, bagger, touring, and trike very soon.
Oh, cool.
And we're not going to waste time on EV products. We're not going to try and compete in the standard category, which was the FTR.
Yeah.
And I have my reasons for that. I'm happy to talk about any of that if you want. But
it would be interesting. The FTR, for me, having done work with Indian over the last couple of years, when that thing went away, I'm just guy working at the agency that people kind of associate with the brand a little bit. I was getting hit up left and right, and I still have friends that are like, "Oh, should I buy an FTR?" And that was kind of one of those things where it shifted things in Super Hooligan. It shifted things kind of, obviously the 750 was a bit different, but yeah, the FTR thing is curious. So if you want to share a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, no problem. Love to. Yeah, listen, here's how I say it, right? So when you look at the motorcycle marketplace and you look at the different segments,
Yep.
You want to set your company up to succeed, right? And so when you look at cruiser, bagger, touring, and trike,
Yep.
and then you look at standard, sport bike, some other categories,
Yep.
You got to look at the capabilities we have. You got to look at the brand that we have. You got to look at how much our willingness to experiment in different areas. And when I lay all that out and I look at our market share in touring, baggers, cruisers, it's zero in trike because we're not in that business today.
Yep.
There's so much business to be had in those 4 categories.
Yep.
And we actually perform really well in touring, and we perform really well in cruisers.
Yep.
And part of the reason why that is brand matters in those segments.
Correct.
And for us to do an FTR project, when you look at where you need to be price wise, where you need to be specification wise,
yeah,
it would be a distraction for us.
Yeah.
So we're going to pour all of our product development efforts into baggers.
Yep.
Now the nice part about that is you get some benefit in touring. You're certainly going to get some benefit in trike.
Yep.
But we are going to go after that bagger segment in a big way. Now, why? Why? Because the bagger segment is the largest segment of the segments that I mentioned.
Yep.
It's our lowest market share, so we have the largest opportunity there, and it's the most profitable for our dealers and for the company.
Great.
And so we're going to go after that in a big way, and that's going to be our focus. I mentioned trikes. We're going to get into the trike market, which probably isn't of interest to you, and I'm not a trike rider today, but I've talked to a lot of trike buyers and prospective buyers, and they want an Indian trike from Indian Motorcycle Company. Our dealers want it, and there's only one real competitor in that area, and I think they need a competitor, and it's going to be us. And look, I've said this. Everyone's like, "How soon are we going to have it?" It's like next week, Tuesday. Yeah. And so listen, if we were a world-class product development team, it would probably take us 3 to 4 years to come up with a ground-up product in the trike market. Yep. Now, what I've challenged my team to do is let's think creatively, let's think differently. Yep. How do we potentially partner with somebody How do we leapfrog some of the technology in that space and bring a really, really good solution for our riders,
Yep.
and do that in something that would be measured in months, not in years. And so
Yeah.
that's the challenge. And by the way, I am super impressed with the talent across Indian Motorcycle Company. Unequivocally,
Yep.
super great talent. Our engineering team is incredibly talented, and they know suspension like anybody. They know rear suspension,
Yep.
independent suspension,
Yep.
and we're going to have an exciting product coming to market, and hopefully a lot sooner than what people would imagine.
Yeah.
But of course, never as fast as our owners want it. So we're moving fast.
Yeah, it's never fast enough for a big company like you guys have going on. So
Yeah.
it is interesting. I think that anyone that has ridden an Indian can feel that the engineering that's gone into it, and just how good the team was that got it to where it is. And I don't know how much it's changed since, but yeah, the product side of the business
Oh
is
no, yeah. The
it's
products that I've told a story. We are blessed. I mean, we have an incredible product line. Whether you're talking about a Scout,
yep,
right on up through our touring product line. I mean, I first did a long distance ride from Dallas down to Daytona on a Roadmaster,
yep,
and as soon as I got on that thing, went across West Texas, I'm like, this bike is a superior machine in terms of technology. I mean, you got the rear radar, you got blind spot indicators. I mean,
yep.
we're seeing what the powertrain is capable of in the King of the Bagger series, right?
That's for sure.
And it's just a fun motorcycle to ride. It
Yep.
really is.
Yeah, we'll
We're,
touch one more thing on the business front. Um, Obviously, you've been at the helm now for a bit. You've got it pointed in a direction, which we just talked about. What are the current strengths and challenges for IMC that you're facing today, and kind of in the next 2 quarters, let's say?
yeah. Well, I think the strengths that we have are our our brand, the product line that we're inheriting, the dealer network that we have. We have some great dealers. I mean,
Yeah.
we have some dealers that are just incredibly committed, incredibly engaged, and they're delivering, outside market share delivery in their local market area. So that to me is a real strength that we have.
Yep.
The team that we have a group of employees that love the two-wheel business.
Yep.
And because they were kind of, I'll call it, buried within Polaris's $12 billion company and 10,000 employees,
Yep.
they weren't positioned to do what they needed to be done for the two-wheel motorcycle business. So that to me gives me a lot of energy and excitement.
Yeah.
We're finding a ton of opportunities to improve. And when I say improve, get more efficient, move faster,
Yep.
do better, bigger things, and delight the rider and take care of the dealer. And
Yep.
so, listen, there's a ton of challenges, right? When you consolidate, kind of the messy part of my job. We're consolidating 5 manufacturing plants down to 2. I
Wow.
mean, that alone is like, I mean, the project plan and the moving pieces. We're building the engine line in Spirit Lake, Iowa.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I'd love to have you down in Spirit Lake, Iowa sometime. It's a phenomenal facility.
Yep. That would be really cool to
And
check out.
but when you just think about consolidating that manufacturing footprint and then aligning the teams to support that
Yep.
supply chain, et cetera, like it's a massive, massive undertaking.
Yeah.
Now, again, here's the good news, right? I've got an incredible team,
Yep.
and I do not lay awake at night worried about them and that project.
Yep.
I got a lot of other things to worry about, but that's not one of them.
Yep.
And so I feel really good about us navigating 2026 and kind of standing this company up in 2027, which I'm really excited about.
Nice. That's really cool. It's good to hear. I think it's time we shift to the racing side of things. What do you say?
All right, let's do it. Let's
All
talk
right.
about racing.
So, King of the Baggers, what do you think of this whole thing? What do you love about it? It's, to me, I know I'll preface this with there's a lot of pushback from purists in motorcycle racing, and I, for one, have got to see the ins and outs of this as over the last 4 years, and it's rapidly developing and the racing is really, really good, right? The grid's small, but the racing is always really
Yeah.
good, whether it's one manufacturer at the front battling or two. Um, what do you love about King of the Baggers so far?
Yeah. What I love about King of the Baggers is, as I said earlier, when you look at the segments that we compete in, the
Yep.
bagger segment is the largest segment, and therefore it's a really critical segment. That's number one.
Yep.
Number two, the bikes that we're racing, there's a direct linkage to the
Yep.
bikes in our showroom, right? Engine cases are the same, chassis is the same,
Yeah.
the bodywork dimensions are the same.
Yep.
Um, and so that I love, right? I always kind of struggle when you're racing something that I can't point to the showroom
Yeah.
and kind of get people excited by it, right? Like, now listen, there's an engineering piece to that, right? Like, to go racing and do things that guys do is fun and technically challenging and impressive.
Yeah.
But I have a business to run, so at the end of the day, I need to somehow make commercial sense out of this whole thing.
Yep.
And so that's what I love about King of the Bagger Racing. And I think the reason, and you would have a better perspective on this than me, and I do want to come back to the grid being small. You
Yep.
mentioned that. I just
Of
want to
course.
mention, I want to talk about that. But these bikes are putting some impressive times down,
I mean,
right? I mean,
there's super sport lap times at this point, which is
I,
it's funny. So quick story, and I think he said it in the walk and talk following race 2 of Road Atlanta. Josh Heron, um, I said, what made you click off that lap record today? He said, yeah, well, I was standing in the bathroom and taking a leak, and Bryce Cornbow walked up beside me and said, "You really gonna let the baggers be faster than you on a Ducati V2?" And he said, for whatever reason, mid race, I thought of that and I pulled the pin and I ran the fastest ever super sport lap
that's
around here
awesome.
because I just couldn't let a bagger be faster than me on a super sport bike. So that tells you the level. I mean, the development, they're super bikes, man. Let's call it what it is. I mean, yeah, we've got stock components on it. We've got, you know, the bones of the motorcycles that you're racing, but it's a freaking super bike in all ways about it, right? The development,
Yeah,
the guys that are riding them, it's incredible talent. It's world class talent, and it's the pace is unbelievable. Anybody
yeah,
that sees it that doesn't like it from TV, they
yeah,
go and they see it, they hear it, they feel it. They're like, okay, I'm in. So
yeah.
yeah,
I agree.
it's fast. It's really, really fast.
It's super fast. It's super credible. I think what we do 186 down the back straightaway in Daytona. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's incredible.
Or
Yeah, the
Bonneville,
time.
Bonneville
Yeah. Well,
196,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
But this, like you said, the comparison to Super Sport is just incredible, and I think that's why those bikes have that credibility in the paddock area amongst other
no doubt,
classes.
no doubt.
And the other thing I love about it is, when you go to an event like Daytona or Sturgis or Myrtle Beach or wherever,
Yeah,
and you're seeing more and more. I mean, like at large volumes, people even buying pre-owned baggers, putting bars on it, raising the rear fenders, putting
yep,
better suspension on it, putting a pipe on it. I mean,
yeah,
this, and it's great, right? I talked to a rider Saturday. I was at a dealership and they just bought a Challenger. He was
yep,
trying to convince his buddy who was on a scout to buy a Challenger.
yeah,
And it's like, man, once you go to as a recreational rider, right? So kind of bringing it back to the commercial side, right?
yep,
As a recreational rider, I love the baggers to ride because it's got plenty of performance for me.
yeah,
Um, it's got all the creature comforts, GPS, music, all that good stuff. A little
yep,
bit of wind protection.
yep,
And my wife, will ride with me on it. Where she's probably not going to want to get on a scout with me
yep,
and go ripping around town. So
yep,
that's what I love about the whole thing. It just makes a ton of commercial sense,
yep.
and the Challenger platform is like incredible of what's there and that powertrain, and that's not coming from me. I mean, I'm an avid motorcycle rider, but I'm not a racer.
Yep.
And I got a funny story about me racing at the Milwaukee Mile, but you talk
Always.
to guys like Byron Hines, Terry Vance, Steve Polk, and ask them about the Power Plus powertrain, and they're impressed.
Yeah.
And that's what impresses me, right? Guys like that are talking about it.
Yeah, we got to hear that. What's that? We got to get with that Milwaukee Mile story. Let's do it.
Okay, so this is kind of embarrassing. This was I think it was the 100th anniversary, leading up to the 100th anniversary, and Scott Miller was a mentor of mine for a while. Was running Buell, and he built a bunch of Buell S1 Lightning bikes to run some kind of spec race during the 100th anniversary. So we had all these bikes, whatever, 20 of them or so, and they had to break them in. And so they're like, hey, can a few of you come out to the track and just kind of put miles on these bikes? So of course I jump at the opportunity of that, right? Just get suited up in full leathers, get on an S1 Lightning. And I'll never forget this. I'm out there, I do a couple laps, kind of find my way, get comfortable. And I remember I'm in this turn and I'm thinking to myself, man, you couldn't push this bike any faster than when I'm pushing it right now. I mean, my knee is tucked. I'm like, I'm feeling the G's. I'm going hard. Like I'm thinking this is the max you can push this bike.
Yeah.
And just about that time, Sean Higby, who was a test rider for us at the time, went on the outside of me, like I was standing still.
Yep.
And that wasn't enough. As he went in front of me, he sort of turned and like waved at me and then took off. It's just totally humiliated me.
Yep. Yeah. I've had so many of those. I raced Super Hooligan the last 2 years, and like you think, oh man, I'm on a burner. This is 3 or 4 tenths up in the third sector, and you're like, man, I'm really ripping. And then somebody just comes right around the outside of you, sliding sideways, gets together, gets out of the corner, and they're 5 bike lengths ahead by the time you exit. And you're just like, all right, yep, I'm human. That is an alien. Yeah, it's humbling and awesome, and gives you such perspective at the same time. And embarrassing to a degree, but not really at all, because I mean, Higby was a ripper. I would love to do a Higby podcast. He's seen some things for sure, and he was a name that was around for a while. So it's cool. Really, really cool.
That's my story. So I'm going to stick to running companies and probably not become a professional racer anytime soon.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Let's talk about those opening rounds. I mean, it just seems like a dream. You mentioned in the walk and talk that you basically called Terry and said, hey, I want to go racing. I want you to be Indian. And he was like, you want to go racing this year? It's like tomorrow, effectively. What has impressed you most about what you've seen from the team and what they were able to do in such a short amount of time?
Well, I want to say this the right way, okay? I don't want this to land in a wrong way at all.
Okay, good.
So as we previously discussed, right, I'm very familiar with Van Science Motorsports capabilities, right? I mean, that I ran that company for a while.
Yep.
I know the team extremely well. I mean, not just Steve Polk, but I know everybody on the team really well.
Yep.
Spent many weekends with them at races, all that good stuff, right?
Yep.
I'm just trying to give you the setup here for what I'm about to say.
Okay, good.
And I do remember Terry. I called him, and it was late September. Kind of brought him under the tent, said, hey, here's what's going on. And we kind of talked through all that. And he was like, wow, Mike, this is a big deal. And I want to go racing. What are you thinking? I said, well, I'm going to go racing with you. King of the Baggers, super important to us. And I remember I said, he again pushed again. So, well, what are you thinking? I said, well, this March, we got to be there, and we got to get a bike on the box. And he said, man, Mike, you're asking a lot. And I said, I remember exactly what I said. I said, I know, but I know who I'm asking.
Yeah.
And so in some regards, Anthony, I'm not surprised at what we've been able to accomplish because the bike, first off, the Challenger to start with is an incredible platform.
Yep.
And then when you take not just the capabilities of Van Science Motorsports, which is high level, right?
Yep.
But I know their grit, their determination, they're just crazy. I mean, Steve Polk was at the shop till 3 a.m. several times from September until Daytona. I mean, that's just the way those guys run.
Yep.
And so now, that being said, it's still an insane ask to call somebody late September and say, hey, let's show up in Daytona and be on the box. Like, that's an insane ask.
Yep.
So I was nervous the night before because I was nervous for them. I wasn't nervous for me. Like I knew whatever it would work its way through, but
Yeah.
like, something could happen and it could be a tough weekend. And I didn't want that for Terry, Steve Polk, and the entire team.
Yeah.
Andrew Hines is involved. I mean, like this team is, they threw themselves at it. And so the way that it ended was, almost perfect
Yeah.
in terms of demonstrating the Challenger, Power Plus, Vance and Hines. It's an incredible combination.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting to me just like how quick they seem to just have it figured out. And I talked to Troy, and Troy's like, well, yeah, I was trying to ride the bike that I had last year and trying to make it feel like the bike that I had last year. And once he gave himself to kind of what the team had developed and had worked on, and it seemed to all click again for him. What's it been like watching those three riders come to grips with?
Well, I mean, we're blessed, right? I mean, to have Rocco, Troy, and Hayden. I mean, that's an incredible team that we have.
Yep.
You know, I've got a little bit of time with Hayden because when I was at Vance and Hines, he ran the first bagger program, and then we brought him back when Vance and Hines did their own team.
Yep.
Spoli was our other rider for a while I was there, and so I've gotten to know Hayden and his wife and watching his kids grow up and stuff like that. He's just such a great human being. Troy brings, I think, a little bit different dynamic to the team. Rocco certainly also brings, an element of youth and eagerness to prove. But I just think the combination of the three, and then of course you got Terry and Steve Polk, that experience. I mean, it's just it's a phenomenal combination. But I think when you think about what they've accomplished in such a short period of time, I mean, we haven't talked about Atlanta yet, but Atlanta, we dreamed of what happened in Atlanta happening in this season. I didn't think it would happen the second weekend that we were racing.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at the capabilities that are there in that Challenger motorcycle, Power Plus platform, right? And you look at the partnership we have with Vance Hines Motorsports and the intensity that we brought from September to March.
Yeah.
Not that we're here to talk about every other function of the business, Anthony.
Yeah.
But that intensity we're bringing in product development, in our thinking around marketing, in every aspect of our company, because I think when you look at the opportunity or the capabilities of that Power Plus platform, we see that in other aspects of this business.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, we are behind the scenes, product development, how we think about marketing, like we are wide open throttle. Yep. And so what you're seeing in racing is what you're going to see as impressive results you're seeing in racing. You're going to see that in product development and other aspects of our business going forward.
Yeah, really cool. One last question, just about how it kind of came to be. Did you think it would take some time to build some momentum? Obviously, it's Terry and the team, and they're going to be toward the front. Did you think it would take time to build into consistent front running results? Or are you just kind of like not surprised by it at all?
No, I mean, listen, I again, because of the short time frame, I mean, I had a lot of confidence in, and by the way, back in September, as soon as Terry and I kind of verbally said, okay, we're going to do this thing, let's get moving, I immediately got them a couple of challengers. They immediately got them on the dynos. They immediately went to work. And now they're calling me, telling me how impressed with this Power Plus platform and what they're experiencing, the dyno and the power it's creating. And, now they start getting into head work and everything else. And so there were lots of reasons to feel really good about what we were capable of.
Yep.
But it's racing, and you never know, right? And they didn't have the seat time. They didn't have the track time on the motors. And I think, what we're learning is that motor is incredibly durable. It's incredibly reliable, and powerful, right? And so, No, but I would be lying if I didn't say the night before the race in Daytona, I was a little nervous. And again,
Yeah.
it was I was nervous for them because of what I asked them to do.
Yeah.
And so in some regards, I'm not really surprised. I'm surprised at how quickly they were able to get it together. But
Yep.
again, those guys are so determined and so driven.
It's so,
Yeah,
it's,
they're impressive. It's an
yeah.
impressive group.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, then you go to Road Atlanta, you do a podium sweep, you win. Hayden's undefeated at this point. We're right now one day after Barber, which means we're about halfway between Road Atlanta, Road America. We had some news drop in between, and it was 200 RPM bump for Harley here between rounds 2 and 3. I'm just going to leave it general and ask you what your perspective is before we kind of hash out any of the details. What's your perspective when you get that call and find out that news?
I mean, I think, I was surprised. On the one hand, listen, Moto America's got a tough job, right?
That's for
They
sure.
have to make sure that there's a race
Yep.
that takes place. Everybody wants a race, right? I want a race. The fan wants a race.
Yep.
And that's Moto America's job at the end of the day.
Totally.
I'm on the one hand, I'm not surprised that what Terry and the team were able to kind of shape off the Power Plus platform and the Challenger chassis.
Yep.
At the same time, like, I thought the move was pretty quick after 2 weekends.
Okay.
I thought, I mean, I don't, you probably know it, Anthony. I don't, I think somebody mentioned it to me, but like, the showing that Harley did in Atlanta was not really impressive. I mean, I don't know how many laps Kyle even finished. And so then to kind of come out, and I'm sure Harley was chewing in Moto America's ear.
Yeah.
And, so, anyway, so it's, I thought the move was a little fast.
Yep.
But I don't fault Moto America. They got their hands full, and, we had a really impressive 2 weekends of racing.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of that Challenger platform is really capable, and our partner is outworking the factory over in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I've had a lot of conversations this past weekend at Barber about the rules, because we're seeing it across all classes. We're seeing Supersport now have a 40 millimeter shorter swing arm, which is drastic change for them,
Mm-hmm.
right? 40 millimeters. We're talking half a mil sometimes can change a motorcycle, right? So you see it in Supersport. You see the Pan America getting the velocity stacks taken away, and running 7th through 11th, I think it was, not being in the top 5 basically all weekend until the last race, or the last day, I guess. They have an incredibly tough job, and balancing rule books is
They do
very gray and very it's just such a hard thing to do. The other general consensus was, yes, it's only been 2 rounds. I've heard a lot of, I mean, if you get on Facebook and read in the Bagger Racing Facebook group, it's a wild narrative that's been happening out in the world. So I do think, yeah, maybe a little early. Like you said, Kyle didn't run a ton of laps, but
yeah, it didn't.
I mean, maybe they're looking at data and they're seeing something that us outside of that room are not seeing. Yeah, it's definitely interesting that early. I do respect, obviously, the rules being balanced, and having this Indian Harley rivalry is so good for the sport. We see a lot of baggers at the track now. We see fans sticking around. I mean, they're the last race of the day after Superbike. That says everything, and people stay after Superbike to watch.
I agree.
So
I agree. Yeah,
it is interesting. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what it does. The first thing I'm doing when we land at Road America is asking, I'm going to go to Harley and say, hey, like, what does 200 RPM really do in your power curve? I mean, we saw it last year. It's interesting. So yeah, they've got a tough road. But I do think, there was domination at the front. This someone put it to me this way, and I'll get your perspective on this.
Sure.
All three of your bikes have been at the front in most of the sessions, most of the races, right? So they're seeing all of the bikes as opposed to one or two Harleys mixing it up with an Indian last year. They're seeing all the bikes at the front. I think maybe they just got a little tense thinking, oh man, if they're all going that fast and there's all that data, they could be going quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting to me. Is it something that you guys kind of expected behind the scenes? Did you expect that maybe if this domination continues, we may end up getting a rule change? Was there ever talk about that?
I mean, listen, again, it's 2 weekends of races.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the circuit of tracks that we go to, right, there are some circuits that play better to the Harley platform versus the Indian platform, right?
Yep.
And again, I think I think the Challenger platform is a powerful, capable motorcycle,
Yep.
and that's what the world's seen. And when you combine that with Van Science Motorsports, and by the way, like we're bringing it. Like this team is going to work. They are working hard.
Yeah.
And again, I think Moto America's in a tough spot. At the end of the day, their job is to make sure we've got a race on Sunday. My view, I was surprised that they made the move after Atlanta. I thought, well, let's go to up to Wisconsin. Let's see what happens there.
Yeah.
If the same thing happens there, then probably, something is liable to come our way in terms of a rule modification.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a little early. I mean, at the end of the day, I thought it was a little early, right? And I'm sure. I don't know this, but I'm guessing that Harley was chirping in Moto America's ear, and I would have told Harley to get to work and keep your bikes on the track, because their showing in Atlanta wasn't fantastic. Your comment about all three of our bikes have been up on the podium, did the sweep in Atlanta, which is incredible.
Yep.
I mean, listen, there's a little bit of luck involved in that when you get all three, 1, 2, 3, right? If Kyle doesn't crash, and he had a technical issue too on one of the races, right?
Yep.
And then if he doesn't crash in the first lap or second lap,
the pace he was in the mix, right? Like the pace, he wasn't far off.
Yeah, who knows what happens, right? He probably doesn't beat Hayden, but maybe he pushes Hayden to do something silly. He probably ends up in second. Like, I don't know. I'm listen. There are guys on the team that are way smarter than this stuff than me. I just get to come along as a spectator, and I usually have a great seat at that race.
Yeah.
And I get to listen in and learn with Steve and Terry and the team.
Yeah.
But my view, overall was I thought the move was a little bit quick.
Yeah.
And listen, Harley better get ready, because we are not backing down. Like, we're going to work here.
Yeah.
And we got a great platform. We got an incredible partner, and we're just going to keep bringing it. So let's go racing.
Yeah. I love that. Obviously Terry's had experience with the Harley, and they were on a run with the Harley last year. I think they won something like maybe the last 4 or 5 races. Like they had that thing rolling really well. He's had experience with it. He knows its strengths. He knows its weaknesses. He's now had time to develop this Challenger into his own. You maybe have had, I'm sure you have had conversations. We'll see if you'll share any insight, but what do you think it'll do to the racing from conversations that you may have had with Terry? Is there anything you could share with us?
There's a great quote from Byron Hines when he gets a question like this.
Yep.
And it is, stay tuned.
Okay, good. I love it.
Stay tuned. No, yeah, listen, I mean, the guys in Brownsburg aren't afraid to go to work. That's what they've been doing for a long time, way before I called them. They obviously demonstrated that what they're capable of, what this platform's capable of when they showed up at Daytona and then Atlanta. It's a bit disappointing that they made a rules change so quickly, but hey, listen, I'm not really surprised.
Yeah.
and listen, the team's not afraid to go to work. So
Yep.
Steve Polk and the crew, my guess is they pulled a few more 3 a.m.s after they got the rules changed, and they're gonna double down and give us a great showing in Elkhart Lake. I'll be
Yep.
there. I'll be in Elkhart Lake. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a great race,
Yeah.
and we'll have a ton of fans there. And we're actually riding over to the race from our corporate headquarters in Minneapolis with some dealers and visit dealers on the way, because that's what I do,
Yeah, of course.
and a bunch of employees too. So it should be fun.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing that. It's one of those things, people want to hear from the manufacturers. Speaking of the manufacturers, this class is unique that it's only two, right? In other series that I've been around where it's only two, namely Polaris and Can-Am, there's open dialogue about the rules for a series like, let's say, Dakar, right? There's open dialogue. There's dialogue between the two brands with the organizer kind of helping. Is that something you guys see with KOTB, or are you finding out the rules change when we're finding it out? Is there dialogue on balancing, or what's the drill there?
Yeah. So let me say something here, because I want to be crystal clear about this, right?
Yep.
Terry's forgotten more about this space than I will ever know.
Yeah.
And obviously he's my partner. And
Yep.
so, when stuff like this comes up, Terry's my lead, and I'm assisting him, if you will.
Yeah, of course.
I've had the opportunity to work with NHRA, AFT, and
Yep.
Moto America, and I am super impressed with the Moto America guys.
Yep.
From the first event that I was at, whether you talk about how they run the event, just everything about it,
Yep.
and notwithstanding also the tech space and how they communicate with the different partners. So I think there's good communication from my standpoint,
Yep.
and I know Terry feels the same. We think Moto America is a really good partner.
Yep.
And again, listen, like you said earlier, right? They have probably more information than I have. They've got people chirping in their ears that I don't have.
Yep.
I'm focused on our game, our strategy, our platform.
Yep.
And hey, let me rest assured, like, this rules change isn't going to back us down at all. If anything,
Of course,
we're going to bring more determination and grit to this thing than you've seen before.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. I've got 5 rapid fire questions, which is something that I'll do here in the shop.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to chat about before we get to those? I mean, there's obviously a lot going on. Is there anything else you want to chat through before we jump to that?
No, listen, this has been a good conversation. I'm looking forward to Elkhart Lake, and the rest of the circuit is going to be great.
Yep.
Laguna is always a great track. Coda is going to be fun, Ohio, and then end up in New Jersey. So I'm sure I'll see you at a few of those events. I won't get to all of them, but I'll get to most of them.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to Elkhart Lake. We got a couple of things that we're going to announce in and around Elkhart Lake. We're going to do some stuff with our Aero brand, which is our performance brand.
Yep.
I'm super excited by that. We got a big ride-in with our dealer in Metro Milwaukee, out in Muskego, Wisconsin, coming in with a bunch of customers there. That'll be fun.
Yep.
And we've got a couple other surprises for the weekend in Elkhart Lake.
Cool.
So it'll be, and then of course managing through the rules change, right? So,
Yep.
And I know Steve Polk is on point there, and the team will get us through that. So it'll be good.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be, if anything, the rules change brings even more excitement and more intrigue around the bagger class going into Road America.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. Rapid fire questions. What's your favorite Indian motorcycle and why?
That's a tough question. I gotta go Challenger. I just gotta go Challenger. I just think the look of all of our bikes is great. But yeah, the Challenger, it's my go-to class to ride in. If I got a Saturday to go riding by myself or with some buddies,
Yep.
I'm going to throw my leg over a Challenger first. But I sound wishy-washy. I do like them all. Like I'll jump on. I own a 101 Scout. I'll jump on that every once in a while and kind of tool around the countryside. And my wife and I were on a pursuit all day on Saturday, visiting dealers and having fun together.
Yep.
And so I'm going to Colorado here early June and I'm dragging my wife with me to an event, and so we'll take the Pursuit on that trip. But yeah, a bagger Challenger's would be my favorite.
Okay, cool. You may or may not have an answer to this question. I don't know how much other Moto America classes that you watch. Do you have a Moto America Superbike championship favorite?
Well, I mean, Hayden, I don't know a lot of those guys that well, but I've met a few of them. JD I've met because he's friends with Hayden.
Double podium over the weekend.
Third Bobby Fong I've met because he was involved in the King Bagger Racing years ago. But yeah, Hayden's my guy.
All right, cool. I like that.
My guy.
I like that. What's your favorite racetrack? It may or may not be a road race course. What's your favorite racetrack or race event you've been to, and why is that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm gonna go. Yeah, that's tough to say your favorite, right?
Yeah, man.
That's a tough one. I'm gonna go. I gotta go Daytona. I was gonna go Laguna. I'm gonna go Daytona, and the reason why is I always have my commercial hat on, right? And Daytona is the kickoff to the season. It's the first race of the event. There's so much that goes into that event from a business perspective. I got to go with Daytona. Although I like Laguna. What I like Laguna is you can see so much of the track live versus watching on a screen, which I think just adds a lot to it.
Yeah, cool. This is a little bit of a sponsored segment. My pops owns a Italian restaurant called San Soda's Fresh Italian. So this is our San Soda's question. What's your favorite pasta dish or Italian meal?
I love red sauce. If it's got red sauce, I'm all in on it. I love pizza. I love eating pizza, by the way. So I don't know if your dad makes a good pizza.
It's a good pie for sure.
Our you said two brands in the racing platform, Harley and Indian. The CEO of Harley's got some experience making pizzas, so maybe he could give your dad a tip or two on how to make some good Zaz. But me, I love eating it, and any red sauce is good with me.
Okay, good deal. Last one. What are you most excited about over the next 6 months from an Indian motorcycle perspective?
That's a great question. We have so much going on right now in the company, whether it's racing and aero and everything in that area. We've got a couple of special things planned for Sturgis, which is a big event for us.
Cool.
I'm heading over to the IRF event in late June over in Europe. And we're just, inside the company, we're building out things like a new engine room in Spirit Lake, Iowa, making investments in that plant. And it's tough to whittle it down to one, but I think in overall, I'm excited to show the world what this team is capable of. And I think we're just kind of coming out of first gear. And we're going to bring a ton of energy, ton of grit, and a lot of fun to this category.
Cool. Awesome. Mike Kennedy, thanks for the time. It's just always good catching up with you, even if it's at the races. I love swinging by, talking to you, talking to Terry. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for being our first non-racer guest in the shop, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot. Take it easy.